Welcome to Kula podcast under the Growth Accelerator Entrepreneurship Challenge 5th round implementation. In these podcasts, we invite entrepreneurs, experts, and professionals to share experiences, ideas, and talk about how to build a business that grows and survives in Malawi.
Good afternoon and welcome to this conversation of the Growth Accelerator. This afternoon I have with me in the studio Mr. Chavula from the National Planning Commission. Mr. Chavula, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chavula, please can you share with us your role at the National Planning Commission? What do you do there?
Thank you so much. I work as a senior development planning specialist for private sector. So my role specifically focuses on issues to do with how do we advance the agenda of the private sector development in Malawi in terms of in what context. I think the plans also talk to issues to do with private sector and what are my technical advisory role in view of the mandate of the National Planning Commission, how also can contribute towards maybe moving forward as a country, considering the role and importance of private sector in Malawi.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And how does your role speak into Malawi 2063?
Sure. No, Malawi 2063 as a national blueprint. There are quite a number of roles that each one of us has as a National Planning Commission put together to advance all interests of Malawians. We have issues to do with maybe economic development issues in general. There are also issues to do with, say, private sector. There are also issues to do with maybe infrastructure. So when you're doing the programming, you must take into account all particular kind of issues aboard so that we move together to ensure that no one is left behind, but at the same time to ensure that since this is a national vision, everything else must be moving. So my role in terms of the position, not as a person, the position is very key and important, realizing that where we're coming from, we had what we call the Vision 2020, and then a number of blueprints that have been there to run to kind of show direction of the economy. But what has come evidently, looking at where we're moving forward, we can't move without private sector. And if you talk of economic development, it relies upon the private sector activities. Government will just put necessary requirements for the economy to grow and prosper as people of Malawi. So when you look at the role of private sector is very key, and because of that, it was necessary and important to ensure that the issues of private sector are taken into account, and that is why my role is also very important. Even when you look at the vision, which is the document that is the national blueprint, clearly it tells how important private sector is. Sure. So really my role is very key in delivering on the vision. Thank you.
And what would you say are the top 3 ways in which NPC is engaging the private sector or creating a conducive environment for the private sector to thrive under this Malawi Vision 2063?
Well, thank you so much. What is important is to understand what is the mandate of National Planning Commission. If we don't do according to what we are set to do, then we're doing something outside our mandate. So we have a mandate, and we have 2 key mandates. One of them is to craft long-term and medium-term plans for the country. So that is one of the key mandates of National Planning Commission. So when we look at the socio-economic kind of activities, they are based on what kind of plans do we have in the short, medium to long term? So national planning is put together to see afar where we're going, and then how do you put in place something that should direct us in terms of where we are going. So that is one and the first mandate of the National Planning Commission. The second mandate is to coordinate implementation of the vision. This is where now that is well with your question, to ensure that how do you bring in all stakeholders. The idea of national planning to coordinate is that we have different stakeholders that have a role in the implementation of the vision. We have the government, we also have other stakeholders like the non-state actors, like the civil society organizations, we have the private sector institutions, we have quite a number of umbrella organizations, maybe they could be the Christian community. We also have the development partners as well, who are stakeholders, and then also on a larger scale, the citizenry, the people themselves, who own the vision. So National Planning Commission, after crafting the vision, puts in place a coordinated framework on how we can implement the vision. So currently there's a framework, what we call the pillar and enabler coordination groups. Maybe by way of a background, is that our vision has got 3 pillars and 7 enablers. So it is mainly anchored on 3 pillars, and it is categorized by 7 enablers. So we have the pillars, we have agriculture, productivity and commercialization as one of the pillars. We also have industrialization, which is also another pillar. And then we also have urbanization, which includes issues to do with secondary cities. So these are the 3 pillars that anchors the vision. So these pillars are categorized by 7 enablers. We have the mindset change, we have the effective governance systems and institutions, we also have enhanced public sector performance, and then we also have the private sector dynamism, then we also have the human capital development, and we also have economic infrastructure, and we also have environmental sustainability. So for us to see how far we are moving in terms of our vision, we look at these 3 pillars and these 7 enablers, because we have to deliver based on this. So each particular pillar or enabler constitutes what we call a coordination group. If we have agriculture, productivity and commercialization as a pillar in the vision, so say who are the stakeholders under this pillar? Okay, so we came up with what we call coordination groups for each pillar and each enabler, where you bring in all stakeholders under that particular pillar or enabler, and to say now, can we as a pillar look at what our priorities based on what as a country we said is our vision in terms of agriculture, productivity and commercialization. So you bring all those stakeholders to say, okay, can we look at the priorities? This is the vision. And then we have also come up with what we call the Malawi 2063 first 10-year implementation plan, because that is a plan that is going to operationalize the vision for the first 10 years. So we say, what did we say are the critical interventions that we're supposed to implement? So that becomes the basis for discussion as a coordination group. So these are the coordination groups that where you bring all stakeholders and say, can we come together and see what are the priorities of the nation? What have we said that we're going to do? And then we discuss, and then we'll be able to also say, these are the priorities. And then we say, government, these are the priorities for, not for the Ministry of Agriculture, but for that coordination group, the pillar, where maybe a minister may only lead, so that as a country, we are implementing the vision. So this is how we are implementing the vision in a coordinated approach where we're bringing all the stakeholders.
And you've mentioned the public as being critical to the, fulfillment of this Malawi 2063, because it's for the people of the country, isn't it, primarily? So how are individual citizens able to engage with the NPC, engage with all of the key stakeholders, but also contribute to, to this, the fulfillment of this agenda? What is it that individual ordinary citizens can do? Where can they be informed? What are the ways that they can plug in to the information, the opportunities that are being presented by this agenda?
Okay. No, thank you so much. when you come up with a vision and when you come up with implementation, as citizens, they entrust certain institutions to carry that vision. But those people must be accountable to the citizens, because the plans belong to the citizens of Malawi. So what we're going to do, it should be able to have an impact on the citizens of Malawi. So government is an institution that is entrusted to lead as a public institution in steering, showing leadership in the implementation of the national vision. So you bring in other stakeholders to come together, representative of all kind of groups, to say this is how we should do. Not everybody can be able to come. Then otherwise will stop working in this country. However, while that is done, there's a forum where everybody else is involved in one way or another, other than also based on any representatives. So what happens is that I was talking about the parent enabler coordination groups. When we were set to start implementing the activities, when we launched what we call the Malawi 2063 first 10-year implementation plan, we launched where the head of state presided over that function, and it was open to the public. We ensured that we had put all things that should be able to people to hear and follow through all sorts of the media to see what is happening. To say now we have begun the journey. Now we are now launching the first 10-year implementation plan. So we brought in what we call the leads of each coordination group into that meeting to make commitment for the nation. To say, under agriculture productivity and commercialization, I as a lead of this coordination group, I make the following commitments that I'm going to do, as is indicated in the MIP plan. So these are the focus areas that I'm going to focus on, that by the end of the year, I'll be able to say, what have I done? So when that was being launched, so each coordination group lead, who was from government, made a commitment before Malawians.
And in closing, when we look at the Growth Accelerator program and the partnership that they have with NPC, why do you think that kind of partnership is critical? And do you feel that the Growth Accelerator program is very critical to the achievement of Malawi 2063?
Oh, very much so. If you've read the vision, one of the things is that we have programs. Maybe some of them will call them the Zotega series, if you've ever heard, where we're looking at, there are certain kind of initiatives. They're very good. Maybe people do not know it. Okay, how do we promote them so that they can be scaled up? Okay, there are certain activities, sometimes maybe investment in certain areas, maybe they are not moving forward, but it's something that can be done if you can only be able to pedal around with it. And then it's very easy to see them becoming transformative. So, according to the national vision, growth accelerator is very key and is very important for country. And you might have noted that maybe some of those that are beneficiaries of the program are some of the people who are investors that we feature, because we see what they are doing, and then we're also telling Malawians, see, this is what we want. So according to NPC, that is a very, very important initiative. And the idea being that despite we would want to move forward, there are certain things which are already being done that are good. But if they can also be scaled up, it's very important. But maybe there is something that they lack. So those are some of the things that maybe are needed to ensure that if those particular investments, they tap into those particular services, then they can begin to move forward. So these are some of the things that NPC would love to see. And we're also very happy that we need to see such kind of initiative move up, so that we'll be able to see the benefits that come out of it alone. So otherwise, that's very beneficial for Malawi, not for NPC. Sure.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chavula, for joining me today in the studio to talk about the Growth Accelerator program and the partnership that it has with National Planning Commission.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Kula. This podcast is proudly sponsored by the Growth Accelerator Entrepreneurship Challenge with support from UNDP Malawi and KFW Development Bank.